Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Truth Wanted. I am your host today, Objectively Dan. This is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time, where we talk about what people believe and why. And every single week, I have a special guest. This week is no different. It's Derek Lambert, creator and host of the MythVision Podcast. Derek, what's going on?
Hey, Dan, can you hear me?
Oh, no, Derek, you are muted, my friend. If you have that button on, you should take that off. And while you're fixing that, I'm going to go ahead and keep talking. And he says he can't hear me, so this is a fun time. So, Derek, you should switch those headphones if you can. And we're off to a great start today, folks. We're going to try to figure this out while I try to entertain the rest of you. So this is normally the part where I interview Derek. And I'm just going to pretend like I'm talking to Derek now. Why, hello, Dan. Nice to see you. Oh, me? Hi, Derek. Thanks for being on the show. Yes, it's really great to be here. Oh, yeah. I'm really glad you're here, Derek. How's life at home? Oh, it's been great. I got a great channel going on. Yep. Still can't hear you, Derek. Don't know what's going on there. You should switch those headphones if you can. Otherwise, I'm going to keep vamping. Do. Man, I should really have some segments prepared. You know, I'm usually able to vamp pretty well whenever there's like a break in between calls, but I don't even have a guest right now. And we got a couple calls coming in, but now it's just me. And you kind of feel like a weirdo just kind of talking to yourself on one of these things. Oh, hey, here's the whole one-up. In case anybody was wondering, those of you watching live, you can see what this one-up was. It's a little variation of the dog meme on fire thing. It's pretty fun. Hey, Derek, can we hear you now?
Yes.
All right.
For some reason, I didn't have eyes to see or ears to hear. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I've been gifted with such a blessing, right? No, I didn't hear anything you said, so I'm going with it. I'm just going to go with the flow.
Well, I'm just going to do a quick new intro here in case we have to do a cut for it. But welcome, everybody. This is another fantastic episode of Truth Wanted. I'm your host, Objectively Dan, and this is the live call-in show where we talk to people every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. This is where we talk to people about what they believe and why, and every single week I have a special guest as well. This week is no different. This is Derek Lambert. Derek, welcome to Truth Wanted. Thanks,
Dan. Appreciate you having me on and getting to share this time with you, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we don't have tech problems, it's a really fun time. I promise you. So Derek, you are the creator of the MythVision podcast. You have a crazy upload schedule, by the way. I don't know if you do this all the time. You've uploaded stuff like every single day, which is crazy. Yeah. I don't know how you keep up with that, but your podcast, you talk about the Bible, you talk about sacred geometry, you talk to experts, you talk to all kinds of people about just religion in general, but also, I don't know, the interesting parts and the harmful parts of it too, as well.
Yeah, definitely all over the place. You pointed out really well. I love studying this stuff because once you know it, it's like watching a magic trick. I've told this time and time again, and recently, if you and me went to a David Blaine magician show and we were sitting in there and he starts to levitate, we're all going to sit and go, holy crap, even if you know it's a trick somehow. But most people are sitting back thinking this is real, probably, using the Bible as an example. Right. And then this guy in the corner goes, psst, hey, let me show you something. They're not going to want to hear this. You may not even want to hear this, but check it out. Let me show you how the trick's done. And they take you backstage and they show you this is how he's levitating. This is the reality of what this is all about. And there's some magic in that. There's magic in knowing this. And then you look at everyone else out in the crowd. It's kind of like Plato's cave. You look at them and they're not wanting to hear it. Get out of my face. You don't know what you're talking about. David Blaine's my messiah, my hero, and you're going, listen, there's so many people like this, and you want to do comparative mythology or whatever. I just say that to say, once you see how the trick's played, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, you are an ex-Christian. I'm also an ex-Christian. And so looking back at my own experience, it is kind of weird that I did have these kind of cultural blind sights to my own religious belief versus other religious beliefs of the world. Like, it's weird that I prioritized my religious belief as something being super special because it just happened to be what my community believed. But just because Christianity, even if it is the most popular religion right now, popularity doesn't actually say anything about truth, right? And if I tried to talk about this to people in lots of places in the world, they don't have the same kind of understanding. Like, oh yeah, of course, like a man rose from the dead 2,000 years ago in Israel, and like we all just kind of believe that. That's just not what is common for a lot of people. So yeah, I do take it for granted.
Absolutely. Get into all that stuff right now with that argument of consensus. Islam will be number one in the world. Then you're going to hear, I mean, obviously Christians will start then saying largest doesn't matter. Now, a lot of them do still say that, but I'm saying they feel like, well, we could say that because we're the big boys on the block. Mm-hmm. Well, one day when Islam becomes the priority or the majority, you're going to hear Muslims say that.
Right.
They're going to say, hey, look, we've got the greatest because why? Allah guided us, and this is why we're so successful. It's not that we force all of our children to become this and that our conquered lands that we go and take, that they become this way as well. Nah, it's not that.
Yeah. Yeah, but then Christians will point out, well, like, Christianity, there, if you look in the book of Revelation, it's supposed to be spoken in every language in the world, in all countries and stuff, and that there would be persecution, like there's, I don't know, there's always arguments to look at where people will justify whatever situation Christianity is currently facing, because the Bible just has, I don't know, like a situational prophecy to look at, it seems like, for all of them there.
Yeah, everyone does this in every book. They all apply it to now. It doesn't matter if they're talking about the first century. Somehow it means something to me right now. And that's some of the stuff I deal with as well, is what did it mean to the original authors and to the original audience? Trying to uncover that is, it really kind of strips away when you see all these crazy fanatic doomsday preppers like I thought the rapture was going to happen, the end of the world. I had dreams. I was extreme. I was extreme fundamentalist, part of a cult, a house church. And we were thinking the end was going to happen any day now. I said, I'm a horrible dad when I first had my firstborn. Why would I bring a son into this world and it's about to go to chaos? What kind of parent am I? Like, I literally beat myself up because of an idea.
Wow.
Now I'm like, wow, the power of these ideas is intense, but I'm wanting to go into the magician's room and say, psst, hey, come over to MythVision. Let me show you. Let me show you how this trick has worked. Let me show you. Yeah.
What was that process like then? How did you go from this house church Christian who had guilty feelings about the upcoming rapture to making a YouTube channel where you're posting literally every day about how none of this stuff is real?
I used to actually have a YouTube channel when I was a Calvinist, and it wasn't like I did it for popularity. I'd get some sermons and do little topics about Calvinism. I was a Reformed Calvinist at one point after I was this pre-mill dispensationalist. And long story short, I ended up in a situation where I would struggle with addiction. Drug addiction is a part of my story. I suffered with serious trauma growing up with an alcoholic father. And, he even didn't know how to control the way he acted. So to give you kind of, without going into the whole story, every time I'd fall, and I'll use the term fall for kind of a metaphor for saying struggled in life. When I struggled in life, I always questioned the things I held to. Never questioned God's existence. I questioned, was what I was believing about these things true? And why is my life struggle not matching the reality of the Holy Spirit that I'm supposedly filled with? Like, how come I don't live like everyone is expecting you to supposedly live as a Christian? Years of doing this. I mean, years and years on and off. I struggled with drug addiction for 12 years or so. And I'd get clean. I'd go about the Bible. I'd go to the straight and narrow, go to church. And I'd change my position as I studied. I really took it serious. And I'd study, went from one position to another. And I'm not going to name all these names, but tons and tons of theological positions, to finally get into a point where I found this position called full preterism. I am going to name it because it's what put me on the outskirts of orthodoxy. I got excommunicated from the church, the Presbyterian church. And I was teaching other people, Jesus said the end was going to happen. not in our lifetime. Hence me saying I had dreams about the end and stuff. When I read the Bible, someone pointed out to me, Jesus was talking about then, not 2,000 years from now. So I started to look at it and I said, holy moly, this is a fact. Looking at the Greek word mellow and started delving into the text. Every single time you see it, it's talking about then. Whoever wrote these books, they thought it was going to happen in their life. So I started telling everyone, guess what? Because Jesus is God, and I believed he was God, he did come back. But we just don't understand how that happened. And the end did happen. So you redefine everything, and it runs into some problems. So I leave. I leave the whole church, and I'm believing the Bible. And that's when I started to look into things I never would have. Jesus compared to other gods.
Yeah.
I couldn't even play with that. That was not even an option. Till a couple of years after I left Christianity, but I was still called a Christian. I still believed. And when I saw Jesus was similar in many ways, not identical, not a Xerox copy, but he had similar attributes. He did similar things to other divine beings in antiquity, whether it be Dionysus or other gods. And I said, well, what makes Jesus better? So my concept of God expanded. It went from fundamentalist, this Jesus bubble, to God is like the 6 wise men of Hindustan. If you ever heard that poem.
Yeah. I actually know that one.
They're all like touching the elephant, and they're all blind, and they're all describing God in different ways, but they're all partly in the right and all were wrong. Yeah. That's what sort I thought.
Like a pantheist kind of God, or just a God that's bigger than Christianity, that we're all kind of going on these roads towards figuring out, yeah, for sure.
Everyone is doing it. Everyone in their own culture, God's revealed himself in his own way in other cultures. But what happened when that bubble expanded from, I had the one, the way, the truth, the life, and it is a small bubble, but it had a lot of power over my life. When I started to learn about actual concepts that are real, about comparison to other religions and gods, and delving into the text, Genesis 1-11. Where did Noah's flood come from? Oh, you mean to tell me there's other stories that are older? It's actually the template that they're building their narrative off of? Well, how authentic is Noah's flood then? Right. How authentic is it that one man God chose and all the animals? And it's insanity when you start to delve into believing this literally becomes absurd. So I started to algorize and expand and stretch the meanings so that it wasn't so strict and literal. And my God expanded so much that it no longer had power over me. In fact, I started to go, well, if this is the case, how do I know that that's God and not nature? How can you tell the difference after you start to expand God out to being this in everything, and he's all things and he's everything? And you're like, well, isn't nature? Isn't all reality that? So if you want to define it as God, then you've literally changed what the definition of God has always meant in every ancient text. We're now just giving it a new spin and redefining it now that we have better science. Yeah. So as science starts to come out, we start to make God compete, and God's bigger and better than that. So
that's rambling. No, there's a lot of things there that I would want to hit on. First of all, it's very funny to me that it's you have a story of addiction in your life, and usually that's like the telltale trope of someone becoming a major Christian. But for you, it was the opposite. So one, that's funny. I do think that's funny, just in an ironic sense. But also just I relate so much to your story in the sense that I also had these blinders on where it was just sacrilegious to make these kinds of comparisons to other world religions and stuff. And to be able to start to do that in a real academic sense really gave me pause. And it really made me wonder why I wasn't getting all this kind of information in church about the Bible, the history of it, the history of the people within it, and the culture surrounding it, at least to the academic level that I was later interested in. And I realized it might have been because if more people really understood this, that they might not be meeting at church on Sunday to talk about this stuff. Most times, and this isn't speaking to every church community, but most people that go to church aren't doing putting on their academic lenses on and viewing the original text in the Greek and the Hebrew. Pastors will do it occasionally to make some sort of point, but it's never a full-blown study of the text. Usually that's just to make some sort of nice message for the community to live off of. I mean, when I started really looking at the academic side of things and what the scholars who have been spending majority of their lives looking at were saying, I realized like, oh no, this is this is bad, because suddenly the Greek books that I was reading in high school about the Odyssey and stuff, and how I thought that was crazy, like suddenly I could look at the Bible the same way, and I couldn't stop looking at it that way. It completely changed things for me. So
that's an excellent point. In fact, ancient Near Eastern stuff, like when you start looking at the Mesopotamian narratives and their gods and stuff, and then you look at the Bible, why are we looking at the Bible as this thing divorced from other ancient Near Eastern documents? These are things I understand why. I say that to give the person listening to what I'm saying to consider that. Why? Well, because it's like rooting for a football team your parents raised you to believe and follow into, or whatever it might be. It could be any type of thing. You know, and another thing I want to say before we get some people who might think, oh, I don't like what this guy's saying. I would debate someone over the fact that I love the Bible more now than I ever have for what it actually is. It's a document. It's a document. It's like, can you imagine? Do you think David Blaine, I'm going to use the analogy of magic since I already started it. Do you think he likes doing magic? Absolutely.
I hope so. I hope so. Otherwise, he must be very depressed. But yeah.
Okay, you're right. I'm reading into his mind, but I'm saying this guy literally comes up with ways to stick rods to his arms and stuff, right? He's doing tricks. Some of them might be real stuff that he's trained his body to do, but the guy absolutely loves magic. He knows it's not real. It's not true. It's a trick.
Yeah.
He knows that. But the guy's fascinated. He's a fanatic about magic. I've turned into that about the Bible. I have turned into that kind of person, biblically speaking, Old, New Testament, you name it, wanting to go deep and find out, hold on, what is going on here? Why are there contradictions? I never even could accept that there were.
Yeah.
But now I see there are. But what I've seen revealed about those contradictions tells you something about the authors. So we start getting deep into these things. I would never have done it. It was taboo. I was going to go to hell for doing this. I would never have said this. 8-9 years ago, couldn't picture myself ever saying these words.
So that's an interesting perspective, because for me, to use the metaphor, like me learning about the secret behind the magic trick was morbid almost. You know, it's almost a sense of horror for me, because I'm looking at this thing and I'm realizing, wow, the justification of owning human beings as slaves, the justification of the submission of women into arbitrary roles, like all the systemic oppression you could ever think of, has been rooted in this book for some point in time or another, and has influenced the world in these crazy ways. Like, has it influenced people to do positive things? Sure, but right. I mean, you know, at what point is that threshold going to be the cost isn't worth it? You know, for me, I say it's not worth it, and I don't think it continues to be worth it. But like, I don't know, the more I learn about it, the more I just think about the absurdity of it all. You know?
So I guess you're right. And everything you said, I agree with, by the way. I'm not saying I love the Bible as if this is something that we should start to, everybody needs to read it and believe it. No.
Right.
The same way you read the Odyssey. If you read the Odyssey, there are many slaves. And the gods endorse these ideas, just like Yahweh of the Old Testament endorses slavery.
Right.
I'm still smiling, not because I'm saying that's a good thing. I'm saying because that's ancient literature in a time in which these things were practiced, not something applicable to us today. My delving deep into the Bible is to divorce this ancient document from current day reality. I think it's absurd to think Jesus is talking about 2021 and Donald Trump is the mark of the beast, even though some I think I'm just making the point, like, it goes on and on and on. And when you know what it actually meant and you look at the original context, some stuff is up for grabs. I mean, scholars debate over particular details, but I'm 100% on board with you on that. There are horrific things that do not apply today, but if you read any ancient Near Eastern documentation, you're not going to look at that text and say, hey, we're going to apply the Hammurabi Code to us today. What? You're going to apply that? No. This book needs people, I think, to delve into it so that we can educate people on what it is. We've been born with blinders, or we jumped into this because of emotions. Someone in the crowd right now, you're going through a serious, troubling time. I could sense it in my spirit. And you need the Lord. and he's ready to heal you. Oh Lord, Hamagashimaba. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
start
yeah,
speaking
yeah.
in tongues, and they're gonna grab you, and you're hurt because you're going through a trauma with your wife or kid or a loved one died or something. That's the stuff they do, and you don't even go into Christianity thinking, all right, I've read all the volumes on planet Earth, and because I know this is accurately true to the core, I'm gonna believe in Christianity.
Right.
No.
Right. That's not most people's story. It's
Right.
just not. Yeah. And yeah, like if you really look at it and you stand to think like how many people believe this thing because they just grew up that way, that is just the vast majority of Christians on the planet Earth right now. Like obviously there's converts of people later in life, but even the ones later in life, most of them grew up in Christian culture. You know, they grew up around people who knew, you know, like there's hardly a single person in the United States that doesn't know who Jesus is, right? Like, whereas if you ask the average person, name like 3 facts about Muhammad, like I guarantee you're not going to get the same level of fast responses that you would with Jesus. So I don't know. But it does pain me to see when people just use the book for their own gain like that. But we'll talk about that and more in just a second here, Derek, because now we should get to some callers. Are you ready to get to some callers? All right, cool. Before we do that, we need to thank our special patron of the week, because every single week we thank a wonderful patron that donates on patreon.com/truthwanted. We want to give a special thanks to everybody that donates for the show, but we want to give an extra special thanks to the patron this week. And this week's patron is it is Nuzly Fuzzly Torsten Phil of the Satanic Temple. That is quite a name, Nuzly Fuzzly. So thank you for donating to Truth Wanted. Thanks to everybody who donates, and you can donate again if you want on patreon.com/Truth Wanted. So thanks so much for doing that. And now I think it's time that we get to some calls. So we got a couple different calls here, Derek, and they are all different. They are all different. So I want to talk to Mauricio, who's calling from Venezuela, if only for the fact that I don't think I've had somebody call in from Venezuela yet on this show. So Mauricio, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hi, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well. How about yourself?
Doing good. What time is it in Venezuela right now?
Right now in Venezuela, it's 8:23 p.m.
Okay, so one time zone ahead of us. I thought it was around that time. All right, that's cool. Well, what's up? What's going on?
Florida time.
Yeah, gotcha.
I wanted to say congratulations to Derek. I know that he's coming up on like 2,100 days of being cleaned, and that's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about acupuncture because there's like debate on whether it actually works or not, or how it works. And it's one of the few things that, you know, has supernatural undertones that is like kind of talked about and actually debated in, you know, scientific circles.
Yeah, I don't. So as far as like, if you want to know my opinion on it, I don't think acupuncture points or meridians or the things that are typically talked about in acupuncture are a real thing. There doesn't seem to be a consensus in the scientific community that it's a real thing. I think at best, acupuncture may be helpful for certain conditions, but other than that, I find it's used to be really limited, and the research on its benefits to be, very lacking in any real, medical help for most people. And the fact that there's a lot of crazy supernatural stuff to it too is just kind of just makes it worse for me to endorse there. I wouldn't recommend anybody actually get acupuncture. A licensed massage therapist at best is what I would say for people, but I'm a no on acupuncture.
Yeah, I don't know much about it, to be honest
Okay.
with you. I'm not going to pretend that I know something if I don't. I'd need to investigate it more. But obviously, when you start getting things, as you said, Dan, that get into this superstitious or even cult mentality, I'm always cautious when I enter into those type of arenas because, the chakra, you got to tap into this particular energy vibe that's within your elbow, or like, it's kind of strange language to me. It starts to make me really go, something tastes funny about this. So I'm very cautious. I can't say any scientific, like, oh, this is beneficial or not. But I know a lot of third world countries practice that all the time. I know in America, we still have that there are things there. My dad's had it done before too, but he didn't see any results. It didn't do anything to make him have long-term positive effects. So I can't really, I'm sorry, I can't help much more than that.
So there you go, Mauricio. That's our opinions. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I agree on the kind of like the supernatural part, just because it's unfalsifiable. So it's really, you know, like, even if it was, you know, the ghosts inside of us that we're poking with needles,
right.
I don't know how we would know that. But, you know, there's like some studies, you know, by the NIH, where, you know, they do placebo procedures, and they do real procedures, and especially on people with migraines and stuff. And then interestingly, they also have people where they just put them on a wait list and stuff. And so it actually did seem to be statistically effective at reducing the frequency of the migraines.
I think massage
anyways,
therapists do the same thing. I think that, you know, so like you said, Dan, when you have a medical massage therapist, and me and my wife had a couples one recently because we just celebrated our 14th year anniversary. Yes, I got to pat myself on the back for all the crazy stuff I've done. But when I left, man, I felt serious physical relief. And I know that some people can have medical issues because you're releasing a lot of toxins by doing that. So if acupuncture maybe is releasing some toxins in some physical way, I'm not going to rule it out. But when you get into the whole like spiritual stuff, it's like talking to Jordan Peterson when he talks about psychedelics. He does this. He talks about the supernatural. He gets into the psychedelics and he talks about, oh, well, if you don't have a spiritual experience with the psychedelics. And I'm thinking, well, what do you mean by a spiritual experience?
Yeah.
You know, you start to get some stuff. So
I don't even know what toxins would even specifically mean, because I think when most people use the word toxins, they're talking about something that doesn't really exist in kind of the woo circles. But like, you know, there's always always a spectrum when it comes to woo stuff. And I would call acupuncture mostly in the woo, if only for, especially in its origins, at least in China, because like it's all talking about like that the flows within people and stuff. That's what they're really trying to balance. And then, you know, it gets adopted for different practices later. It's a similar history with chiropractors in the sense that like chiropractors now will tell you, oh, it's to help with adjustments for your back. But like, if you look at the origins, it's like, it's to help to get the ghosts out of you and stuff. Like it's very different in its origins. Like I said, I have no doubt that there is scientific studies out there that can promote some kind of benefit in what acupuncture can do for your health. But I don't know if a medical doctor is really going to be able to say, yeah, the solution to your back pain right now is going to be repeated, you know, acupuncture appointments. You know, I don't know of anybody that's going to make that kind of recommendation, because there's other kinds of things you can generally do, especially in like physical therapy and stuff. So I don't know. It doesn't do much for me. I'll be honest.
All right. Yeah, no, I was just curious. I've actually never had an acupuncture thing myself. I was just curious about what you guys' thoughts on it were. So thank you for having me on your show, and keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for asking us our thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah. In summary, I think it's another kind of woo thing. I think most people who do acupuncture are probably in that woo sphere. Like, you know, we talked about chiropractors a week or two ago, but like, yeah, are there chiropractors that try to look at things in the most scientific sort of, you know, medical, try to refer to medical literature rather than spiritual literature? Yes, I know they're out there. But when I'm looking on Facebook and I'm seeing people talk about acupuncture stuff, it's usually not that. It's usually like, hey, come help get your cheese aligned or your chakras in balance and stuff like that's. And that's just not, I don't believe it. I don't think it's real. So that's all I got to say about that. Any thoughts, Derek?
No, I'm with you on that. It reminds me of yoga too. Yoga does this sometimes, and there's a practical application to yoga, stretching and doing these things. But yeah, I'm on the same board with you.
Cool. Well, let's get to another caller then. I want to talk to Alex, who's calling in from New York. Alex, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Greetings and salutations. How is everyone?
Greetings and salutations, Alex. I am doing well. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, how could we help?
I had an idea not too long ago, and I wanted to bounce it off of you guys.
Okay.
I'm very skeptical in my nature. Came with, my deconversion from Christianity.
Sure.
And, I don't believe in ghosts. Never have. And I see, ghost-based TV shows, and I don't really believe that most of them are not that scientific. I wanted to know if it would be feasible and would be entertaining to base like a TV show, maybe like a YouTube series, something along those lines, where you go to like these haunted locations and you use science to prove or disprove these claims that these people are making. And what that would entail.
All right. So this show exists, and it's called Paranormal Home Inspectors, I believe is the name of it. Now, here's the thing about this show. I saw a great cover of it by Jenny Nicholson, who's on YouTube. She seems really cool. I like her content. It's the most boring ghost hunting show of all time. It is really, really not that entertaining. Okay. So the idea is, they go to these people's supposedly haunted house, and these people talk about their stories and the shadows and stuff they hear. And then they bring in a home inspector, and they're like, oh, yeah, you got something stuck in your air conditioning unit. It's just like, that's it. That's the whole show. And like, you'd think it'd be fun. Like, you'd think it'd be kind of cool, but it's really like just people who hadn't thought about it too much or hadn't looked at stuff too much, and then realizing like, oh yeah, it's just a problem with my house. Like, it's actually not as entertaining as you think it would be. So I don't know.
It's like Scooby-Doo, but not as fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, with Scooby-Doo, there's like somebody malicious behind it. Here, it's just like, oh, there's a spider in your kitchen. Like, oh, that's not worth putting a television budget to. But I don't know. Maybe somebody could do it better than that. I'd be down if like True TV wants to hire me to do some sort of ghost investigator show where I just like tell people that they're full of shit. I'd be fine with that. But I don't know. They haven't contacted me with any offers, so we'll see.
And the sad part is when you start diving. Oh, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt the caller.
No, that was my bad. I interrupted you. That was my bad. Sorry about that. I just think, it'd be, there should be more content out there that, points out the contradictions that these shows claim.
Yeah.
Is true. And, you can't claim something is true, especially without evidence.
Right.
These people try to do their evidence, and we all know it's most likely fabricated or unexplained.
Right.
So I just feel like there should be something to counteract this misinformation or enlighten people.
I think so too, Alex. I think so too. And I'm worried more now than ever because when you had these kinds of shows and these people talking about it, they're big productions, and those we used to live in an age where if you want to get a show out there, you had to have a studio backing you to do it. Yeah. And you don't have to do that anymore. You can literally just make stuff in your basement. And I think there's so many people now who are getting that kind of information and believing all kinds of stuff they're seeing online because of YouTube and TikTok and stuff that I am wondering what the beliefs of like Gen Z and basically anybody younger than me is going to look like in terms of like paranormal and just weird stuff in general. So I think they're going to be more open to that because of all of the stuff they see online, or maybe not. Maybe there's going to be more people who are just talking about the BS techniques behind it and stuff. And that'll be a voice too, but I don't know. We'll have to see. If there's more great people debunking stuff on YouTube and TikTok and stuff, I'm all for that. I hope they do well. So
I think it would be great to have like a James Randi type, because he was entertaining. I really enjoyed James Randi. I mean, like the guy exposed everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, come on, I'll give you $1 million bucks.
Shooting for.
Yeah,
I was kind of shooting for like a James Randi kind of TV show, but for ghosts.
That would be amazing. I don't know if it would take as long. I mean, you're right. I mean, we could do it for ghosts. We could do it for UFOs. We could do it for like whatever. If you expanded it out beyond just the ghost the para activity, the paranormal. I don't know how they call it, but yeah, it would be amazing to have like a James Randi type of person. But I'd like to see him explore more than just ghost.
Yeah,
get into all of it.
Yeah,
Get
no,
into-
I agree.
I completely agree with you.
I agree. Unless he actually
That was
finds
the
real
initial
ghosts,
concept.
then you keep going with that. But yeah, I agree with you. Look, Alex, I'm with you. If we need to make entertaining skeptic shows, we basically need a new Mythbusters. That's what we need. We have this big
Yes,
Mythbusters
please.
hole in
I-
everyone's hearts.
I want more Mythbusters.
I want more Mythbusters too.
Same.
I'm glad that show went as long as they did, but we need something else now for the kids. We got to do it for the kids, Alex. But anyway, appreciate your call. Thanks for your idea.
No
And yeah, that's an entertaining one for sure. Look, like I said, if anybody wants to, donate enough to the Patreon, maybe we make a new tier where I can just start my own skeptic show where I go out on the road and just just tell people they're full of it. I'd be happy to do it. I'd be happy to do it, but that only comes from support from viewers at home. But anyway,
That's how it works.
It's true. It's true. But we have some more calls here tonight, Derek. We got lots of people wanting to talk to us. We have someone who wants to talk to us about UFO stuff again. So we're going back to UFOs. You guys have been talking to me about UFOs for these past few weeks, and it has not stopped. And granted, I egged it on, and I don't regret that. But I've been getting a lot of UFO calls recently that I don't usually get. So Matt, you are on the line here. Welcome to Truth Wanted. How's it going?
Yeah. Going good, Dan. You're awesome. You brighten up my week. Derek, nice to meet you. Yeah, and sorry, I know we might be beating a dead horse here a little bit, but I don't know if you guys got a chance to read the intelligence report on the UAPs. It's a 9-page report.
Yes.
And there's one. Oh, did you?
Well, I did whenever it first came out, when we were first talking about it a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so I don't know if you read the part where it says, and a handful of UAP appear to demonstrate advanced technology is the title of the section. It's at the top of page 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's, they don't have explanations for any of them, but they have a suspicion to believe that some could be explanation wise of advanced technology. I don't believe, and I don't have it in front of me. I don't believe the conclusion is these are definitely examples of advanced technology, but that these are like plausible explanations for it. I don't think that report actually made any strict conclusions on the matter, but that's a technicality here.
I can't say I have not read the article, but I'll say this. I did a recent interview with a guy named Mick West, right? Who he's kind of known as a debunker. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast multiple times. Joe's pissed off with him because Joe doesn't like the guy constantly debunking and not like going, don't you see it? These UAPs, they're extraterrestrial. They must be some type of alien. Don't you get it? The problem is, even in the statement, and I haven't even read it, but let's say it says that they think these are advanced technology. The aircrafts that are actually filming this are advanced technology. It's not like they're not saying these are extraterrestrial, so to speak. They're not giving you any type of data to say these are from other planets. And if this was such an extreme case, you would see military response to something like this if we thought that this was potential danger. Extraterrestrial danger. We don't see that. My father's a retired Green Beret in the Special Forces, and he's like, I don't know. There could be aliens out there. I think it's possible life's on other planets and maybe way more advanced life. But I'm highly skeptical that all we keep getting are these like obscure video recordings that could potentially be aircraft 15, 20 miles in the distance. And we have people who are being abducted, and they're giving these accounts of abductions, claiming these grays and greens and blues or whatever it might be of aliens. And then you have these other people who are going, well, I saw a leprechaun. And then you got other people who say Jesus came to visit them. I connected those dots purposefully to say we should all start more cautiously and not draw conclusions. And if we don't know, we just don't know.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that too.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, and it's interesting. One of the possible explanations for it that I hadn't thought of before was further down on that same page 5, in a section called UAP probably lack a single explanation. And there's a section called U.S. government or industry development programs. And at the end of that part, it says, we are unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports. So I'm assuming that means if it was a government craft, but it's classified, that they wouldn't admit to it. And then they also talk about like foreign adversary systems. But what's really interesting to me in the one section where it says it appears to demonstrate advanced technology, and obviously I agree with you guys, we can't jump to any conclusions here, but it does say some UAP appear to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly or at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems process radio frequency energy, which I assume that's radio waves, but I don't exactly know, associated with the UAP sightings. So, yeah, I don't know. It just kind of
I will say this. I'd like to add to this, if you don't mind, real quick, because I did recently talk about this on my channel. One of the problems that we find is if you go back to the case where the UFOs, where this all comes back to the situation in Texas, where, well, it finally came out that this was a balloon, a weather balloon, right? Well, really, Mick West pointed this out, that what the government finally released and said, look, at the time we were investigating Russia. Okay, and Russians were dropping nuclear weapons. We're kind of in a race of technology here where they had weather balloons with sound devices trying to pick up, because you can hear a nuclear bomb with the sound waves. And eventually it was released saying, look, this is what it was. I'll say this as a son of someone who couldn't tell me half the things he did during his active duty military tours overseas, because they have top secret clearances. What they've released there, and I'm not saying this is the case, I'm saying it's possible that they're not telling you everything, because potentially there is some technology that they're not willing to talk about. And I'm not saying UFOs, I'm saying advanced stuff that they have, right, or other nations have, that they're saying, look, we don't want to discuss this matter. This isn't for the common people. This is stuff that's top secret clearance. And when you get into that, you have to be careful. I mean, like, when you don't know, don't draw conclusions. But I always say it's good to start with natural, rational positions to try and come to the conclusion. What does Occam's razor tell us? What can we do to try and answer this and make sense of it, rather than coming up with some of the wildest ideas that people who've shown up on Joe Rogan's podcast are saying? And there's millions of people want to see that crazy stuff. Not many people want to say, okay, this was an aircraft 15 miles in front of this jet that's recording, and it's just a human piloting the thing. That doesn't make it fun to half the people on planet Earth, Yep.
Yeah. I don't want to, I've already given my thoughts on this too, what we've been talking about these past few weeks. The only thing I'll add extra is the report also even mentions that it could even be American systems. They don't even rule out the possibility that it is also just another project within the American government that they haven't confirmed is working in tandem in this. So like, that's how little a lot of these reports really know about what we're looking at here. So it's hard to speculate. It's really hard to speculate at this point. So
I was really disappointed on and related to what Derek was saying. It says in 18 incidents described in 21 reports is the very first part of the appear to demonstrate advanced technology section. And I couldn't find any of those reports. Like there doesn't seem to be any sourcing on those. So I guess maybe they're classified or something. But so I was pretty disappointed by that. But they go through all the other ones where they did confirm that it was like, just clutter in the air, like birds and balloons and stuff like that. But there are these 18 incidents out of like, I think it's 144 that they say appear to be advanced technology. But yeah, it could be us. It could be a foreign government. I mean, it could even be some sort of light phenomena that actually does exist, but we just haven't discovered yet. So it's like tricking us into thinking it's
Dan, I'll end on this. I'll end on this. If 9 times out of 10, and I agree with the caller here, if 9 times out of 10 we know we figured out something, oh man, it's always this, like Scooby-Doo. He's always unmasking the guy or the person. It's never a demon. It's never a monster. It's never a ghost. It's never really a spirit or anything. When you know 9 times out of 10 and we just don't know what number 10 is, there's no reason to assume number 10 is that other thing. You know what I mean? It's like we should hold and be cautious, and I think our caller agrees with us. So thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you there.
I don't think aliens would be supernatural, though.
Right.
I don't think so either, unless you're somebody that's called in recently and suggested that it's all the illusions of demons. Unless you have that point of view, we're probably not looking at something supernatural here. Probably something that we can explain within the natural realm, whether that's aliens or otherwise. I mean, I don't, again, rule out completely that it could be something that's not human, but it's not my first go-to and probably won't be for foreseeable future. But anyway, that's all the time I want to take with this call. Thank you, Matt, for calling in from Maryland. I didn't say Maryland at first because I saw the state code and I couldn't remember what it was because I don't see calls from Maryland too often. So MD, I was like, what is MD? It's not Michigan. Michigan doesn't have D in it. So
you're not omniscient? Oh man.
I know. I'm bad at the state codes. It's kind of a thing. I wish I was better at it. But something that we're not bad at is some cool commercials. And we have a cool little promo here that we want to talk about through the ACA, some other shows that you can come check out and watch. So we're going to play that now for you guys in just a second. Check it out.
All right. Well, I don't know if anybody else is now currently picturing Lil Nas X twerking and grinding against Matt Dillahunty. Thank you, and you're welcome.
That's so frustrating. I hate that for you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry Oprah did that to you.
We need the internet to be peer-reviewed.
Peer-reviewed.
Which I don't know how much more white Christian nationalism we really need.
None. We need none of that at all.
Fair. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Negative 200% on that one. Yeah.
Afraid of getting infected by these variants. I send you love rings as well. I want you to put your hands on your computer. I want you to touch them right now.
You're scaring me, John.
Please, God, tell me right now what I should say when I call into the atheist experience. And if you do not want me to do this, please tell me, don't call the atheist experience.
Listen, when I said that Oprah thing, I was like, are they going to use that in the new clip thing? Because now they're going to try to use clips from last week's shows on every single week. This is a brand new thing we're doing here, Derek. And I was right. They did use it. I hadn't seen that new promo until just now. So I'm glad that they used that. I'm glad I got to rock the Space Jam uniform in there too. So anyway, yeah, go check out some of our other shows if you haven't already. They are pretty cool, but not right now. Right now, you are sticking in and listening to Truth Wanted. So we have some other calls that we want to get tonight. We're going to talk to Eric, who is calling in from Texas. Next, Eric, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
How's it going, Dan and Derek? I'm really happy you picked my call because this kind of ties into the stuff we've been talking about today and also in the past as well. I guess, like, a lot of these beliefs maybe don't necessarily hurt people, or you can believe in UFOs as long as maybe you don't spend all of your money on it, whatever. I guess, like, if you have the truth and someone's maybe starting to dip their toes, let's say acupuncture was the first call. If you're a doctor, you know for certain, you have the proof that it doesn't work, and someone's like, hey, I think I want to try this, and just give it a try. Like, do they have an obligation to be like, it doesn't do anything? We know it doesn't do anything. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Or, like, at what point, like, should you kind of interject into somebody's just wanting to try something new? I think last week you talked about the gentleman who was like, or you were talking with a gentleman who had somebody wanted to cure diabetes with rocks. Like, that's obviously extremely hurtful.
Right.
But, there's kind of like a leading up path. Like, if they start wearing crystals, should you be like, hey, man, that doesn't have any vibrational effects on your body? Like, at what point should you interject if you have information that would, like, maybe not change their mind, more like burst their bubble. Like it kind of makes you the downer of the party. If you're like, that's just bullshit, that doesn't make sense. You just become a downer and you pop the bubble for no reason sometimes, but sometimes it can help people.
This is a great question, and it's something that I think about a lot. So I worry about the backfire effect, and the backfire effect being this idea that if you show someone immediately information that's going to contradict their worldview, they have a higher tendency to reject it than to accept it. In that moment, because of like their amygdala response, they get really defensive, and it's just not super effective in changing minds. Now, there's been some recent research about how much the backfire effect is actually a real thing, which I haven't fully analyzed yet, but there's been some controversy in there too. So I'll have to look at that when I do. So, but I'm still using that framework as of right now of trying to keep that in mind when I talk to people about this stuff, because when you go to a doctor, you expect them to tell you what to do and what not to do because they have earned that sense of credibility and that authority. If I'm talking to somebody on the street, they don't know me. They don't know how much I've read about specific stuff. I just could be some guy. And if I say, hey, there's actually a study that proves that healing rocks are bullshit, like they don't have any reason to necessarily believe me in that moment over anybody else they meet. So you do have to kind of build a credibility there, even if you want to try to interject. But let's say you get into that situation, because I think all of us have. I think everybody who's watched this show has gotten to a situation where somebody's at the party and they're talking some mad bullshit. You want to say something, right? I still struggle with this on what the limit is. If there's an immediate harm, then yeah, absolutely, go for it. If someone's like, hey, I think I don't know, what's a crazy thing to say? Putting a gun to their head and pulling the trigger is going to make them better. Don't that there's something there that you should not be doing. But usually it's more abstract, it could be like COVID, for example, people saying, oh, I don't want to get the vaccination because I don't think there's enough research on it and the government's trying to hurt us and stuff. Okay, that may not hurt me right now because you may not have COVID, but you can definitely hurt people down the line. So I say yes, in general. You should feel the right to talk to people about things. And if they're going to give their opinions, you should be able to give yours. I think that's fair for most situations. How to deal with that, though, is a different question altogether. And what's the most ethical way to talk about it? I'm still not 100% sure. To be honest with you, I've been doing this show since 2018. I've been talking to people all the time. And I still don't know the absolute best way to do it. But I do know that at least having a conversation about it is better than not, for sure. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I don't know if there's ever a right way. That's less of my question. It's my question is more of should you, if you have the information, even if it's not gonna help them right then, should you go back into the cave and try to lead your friends out? Should you even try to do that? Or because I like to think I live a life of very live and let live, but yeah, I see my friends hurting themselves or in certain ways or believing in things, and I'm just I could burst their bubble and ruin their day, or I could just let them have that belief.
Well,
I don't know. I guess should you is
yeah?
Question.
I was going to say, Dan, absolutely. To answer your question, I can only subjectively give you my experience on this, and I would say for most of the time, the situation. Whether it's harmful or not in this particular situation. Me arguing with my mom or my sister on whether they should go to church on Sunday because they believe that Jesus is the Son of God, whatever that actually means to them, I'm not going to get through to them. And we can have that conversation when they're comfortable. I do think that they build up walls when you come after them. But harmful things, we all know how harmful something might be. Like with drug addiction, I get people who go, listen, I've got surgery coming up, and they're just a month clean off the street fentanyl. And then they want to talk about, well, look, I've got a surgery coming up, and should I go get the surgery? And I'm like, is it like you have to? No. I want to get some aesthetics done. And they're going to prescribe me the same stuff I was hooked on the streets for many years on. Well, not a good idea. You just got off that stuff. Here, right. You're just getting prescribed that stuff. So, I mean, you kind of have to assess the situation from my experience. I wouldn't run into anyone and just try to change their mind. It just doesn't work that way. Oftentimes, they need to come to you or open up in some way. But if it's harmful, you got to do it.
I think, Eric, it never hurts to ask someone if they're willing to have a conversation about a subject. Okay. I have somebody that works with me who asked me the other day, who knows that I'm an atheist, who knows that I do this show, and came up to me and said, hey, I told them for some reason we were having a conversation about theological non-cognitivism. Okay. And then they came and asked me and said, hey, I've been recently listening to a podcast about atheism, and I wanted to know, like, how do you define atheism? Okay. So, like, even though she's a Christian and she definitely has different beliefs from me, that is the absolute best way she could have asked me to have a conversation with her about it. One, I happen to be very interested in those topics and knowledgeable enough to be able to talk about it reasonably with my own beliefs and my own story and stuff. But like, she was genuinely interested in wanting to know what I wanted to know without, I never got that sense that, oh, she had to convert me right then and there. And even if you want to convert somebody right then and there to your own ideas, I think we still have to come in with this attitude of, well, the best I can do right now is probably plant a seed of doubt. And I can at least do that much. You can at least ask someone if they're willing to listen to somebody else's opinion where they may not be able to get it, depending on their circumstances. They may not be challenged in that area. So I'd say, yeah, it's probably worth at least asking. If you can have a conversation, right?
Yeah, I guess the only time I've ever felt so compelled to like express my belief deeply was when someone started talking about anti-COVID vaccine and how could you do that? And I was like, okay, I can tell you how I could do that. And I was like, I kind of word vomited at him, which I know wasn't helpful, but like, it got me thinking about the compulsion to feel like I have to interject here, regardless of what he's going to say, he's going to believe what I'm going to say or not. It's like I had this compulsion to just like, dude, I've been reading a lot about it. I know a lot about the studies. It's been really well researched. There's yes, some people are having breakthrough cases, and yes, some people are still getting the vaccine, but still getting sick, but it's a lot less. And I kind of just like came with all the stuff I've been reading because I've been really stressed about it and reading a lot about it. And like that compulsion made me think about the other places in my life of like, at what point is it right to really step in? I think about like climate change and other things as well, about like how people live their life. It's like, hey man, like at what point is it okay to just like make sure you tell your friends to recycle, or like you're having a party, like, hey man, throw that in the right can, please. You know, like there's some things seem so little, but it's not. It's the little things add up. So like, at what point do you say?
I agree, Eric.
Just a hard line. I have to draw it.
There is a sense in there because like there is people of liberal persuasion who like to say like, oh, we should all just live and let live and just let people believe what they believe. And I disagree with that. I think there is a limit. I think there is something that we can do at the end of the day, at least help people make informed decisions about their lives or about their beliefs. And I tried to play that role by doing this, but also in my daily life and in having conversations with people. And I think that's a noble compulsion, Eric. I don't think that's a bad thing. I do think that it can easily come across as getting into people's business, right? Even when you don't mean to, you just are passionate about what you know about
or whatever.
No, I listen, like when I was first getting into the veganism stuff, okay, because the only reason I bring it up because you mentioned veganism in the call screen thing. Like I was reading books about it and stuff, and I was like learning a lot more than and dealing with misconceptions there. And when I started to have conversations with people about it, I was like, oh, like these other people have not talked about it as much as I have, and I feel like that, or looked into it as much as I have, and I realized this is starting to become a one-sided conversation there. And I felt the need for a little bit to talk about it a little bit because like I felt like it was really important. And I got the same sense when I was first becoming an atheist, like when I was first wanting to talk to people about this stuff too. So I totally relate to you there, Eric. I think more people should have that kind of compulsion to talk about stuff, especially if they're really researched about it and want to do it. I think people are too shy and they don't want to because they're afraid of the social consequences. But you know, there's real harm if we don't do something about it sometimes. So I'm more in the camp of do it more often than not, but there's always going to be contexts where it may not be appropriate at that point in time. Case in point, maybe you don't want to talk about the reality of an afterlife at a funeral or something like that. Like that people have those limits. People have to have their personal limits. And I get that, but you know.
Yeah, I concur. Everything you said there was really well said. I feel like from experience, and this is the last thing I'll say on this particular subject, is that from my experience, this is the reason I started a channel, is so I don't have to necessarily go pop everyone's bubble. Like, the most effective things are when people actually come and want to listen to what you have to say. And you can sometimes create environments where conversations like that you can happen. You don't have to have a show, Truth Wanted, or a channel of your own or anything. You can have like the neighbors down the street and say, hey, we can disagree. Like, if you're mature enough to be able to tolerate other people's ideas, even if you think it's crazy, you might go, no, I don't believe that at all. But make the point that you're willing to listen to them if they're willing to listen to you. That's the best way to bridge that gap and create that conversation, that maybe some education can illuminate the situation. You might be wrong and thought they're crazy. I mean, I'm not saying we entertain all the crazy ideas out there. I'm saying there might be something you think is right and you're wrong about. It's good to have these conversations so you keep exploring. And I like to use the scientific method personally to try and get to answers.
Yeah. So there you go, Eric. I don't know if I actually helped you or not. I think it was more sharing in my commisery with you about that limit there, because I think everybody has to deal with that. And I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. At least I haven't found one yet. Other than I'm the type of person that's more likely than not going to be willing to challenge somebody if I have the opportunity to. And maybe that's just me. I wish other people were more like that, to be honest with you. There's some people that are just like, oh, well, I can't explain it well, so I'm going to send you a YouTube video. But really, I think everybody should be their own ambassadors to their beliefs and how they got to it, right? So anyway,
that's fun.
That's just me. Eric, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate it because it's, like you try to come across as truthful. Like, I'm just trying to offer you what I know to be true. And, in some cases it gets contentious and you lose a friend over trying to tell them that, recycling does actually help the planet or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a silly example. Or like eating meat's really bad for the planet. Well, I don't know about that or whatever.
Right.
And just like, I guess just speaking the truth is more important in most cases and trying to bring people to the truth than like maybe the consequences.
Yeah. Speaking,
but hopefully they learn something or come back to you and say, hey, I'm sorry you were right about that thing, I guess is maybe the best case scenario.
There are consequences. There are consequences to speaking truth to power. There are. And it sucks. It sucks. It can lose friendships. I've had personal relationships gone a little haywire because of my beliefs and where I'm at and because of my story. But it's my story and it's mine alone. And I'm very confident in the story that I've had. I'm more confident in where I'm at now than I've ever been before because I actually took time to really look into why I believe the things that I do and why I don't believe the other stuff. Like most people don't have that privilege. They just don't have that time or they don't have that interest. And that's fine if you don't have that interest. Honestly, not everybody needs to be like me or be interested in the same things I am, but it is important to listen to people who are really informed on the topics that they are. And unfortunately, at least in the United States, we have lacked that culture in recent years. And it's why we're seeing so much skepticism with the COVID situation and just the scientific community at large when in terms of climate change and, other issues like that. So it makes me sad, but the best I can do is just change the people around me. And some of the most meaningful conversations I've had have been off the air with friends and family about what they believe and why. So I hope you have meaningful conversations too. Eric, thanks for calling in to the show today. And I appreciate your time. I hope you have a good one. Good call there. Any other thoughts on that, Derek?
I concur, man. I mean, everything you said was right on the money. It's like, am I going to regurgitate the same thing you're saying? I think there's a lot of power in that and how we should approach these things. I personally find that when you get them by yourself and it's not, your ego is not in the way and you approach them like, this is another human who has a family, show empathy and kind of try to like scratch the whole what you're actually concerned about arguing with them about and approach them in a different way where you're showing that I really am a friend. Like you can disagree with me, giving that a shot. I don't care if at the end of the day I get cussed out or I'm viewed in a certain way, whatever. I get that all the time. It's a lot of times that works and it allows you to peek into the door and say, okay, let's have a real heart to heart. And here's why I think this is important.
Yeah, and it's a good like ambassadorship just for people who hold your position, right? Like I used to think that atheists were just cold, sad people, just like had a lack of something in their hearts. And you know why I thought that? Because I didn't really know a lot of atheists. I didn't really have anybody in that community. At least the people that I did know who were atheists, they didn't tell me that. And I wish they did. I wish they did, because it's full of people with all kinds of life experiences, with all kinds of different points of views. And you cannot just stereotype groups of people into one hole like that. It just doesn't work. There's a multitude of people out there, and that should go with our approach too, by the way, with how we had talked to others and how they typically believe. You cannot talk to a Christian and just expect them to think that they're the same evangelical type that you were when you were a Christian or anything like that. You really have to adjust your approach to your audience as well when you're having these conversations. But all that being said, we should talk to some more callers here. We got 2 more that I want to talk to before the end of tonight's program. First, I want to talk to Tony, calling in from Mexico. Tony, what's up?
Hey, hello.
Hey,
hello,
Tony.
hello. How's it going, Tony?
Fine. I'm just. I have this issue with this person. I'm sorry. Can you hear echo?
A little bit of an echo, but I can hear what you're saying right now. So.
Okay. Never mind. Yeah. So I have this problem with this person that thinks that the COVID is like invented by the government, and I don't know how to deal with her. Like, what should I say?
They think COVID was invented by the Chinese government or the Mexican government?
No, well, the governments in general, the people, them, right?
Just them.
The ones that are in control.
It's always just them. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Them.
Yeah, well, first, anybody, okay, so like breaking down street epistemology methods here, right? First, I ask, okay, well, got to define what that belief is. They believe that probably COVID is a man-made virus. Okay, why? Why do they believe that? Do you know why they believe that?
Well, in the case of this person, she's someone I care about, right?
Okay.
So it's not like I just want to dismiss her and like move on with my life. I kind of want to help her because she even has a son, and she's over here. I don't know how it is in the U.S., but over here it's the way I see it, at least here in the main city. It's like a breeding ground for pseudoscience, right?
Yep.
So there's all these kind of pseudoscience freaking things going around, and she is getting into one of these. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's called something like biocodification or something like that. Are you familiar with that?
Biocodification. I'll be honest, I am not sure that I am.
Okay, well, the basic idea behind that is that like everything in the universe or in nature, or at least in your body, is a code, right? So I'm not sure what the hell they sell in these therapies or whatever, but somehow they can like recode you so you would not get cancer, or so you would quit smoking, or anything that your body is, any problem with your body can be solved by recoding.
Oh my goodness. I am looking at biodecoding.com, and this is some bullshit right here. You are right, Tony. This is some scary stuff.
You know what I thought first, Dan and Tony? I thought when you said it was like a government thing was that, there's this idea that where did it start from? Like, what did it come from, a lab, or did it come from like the meat market there in China? And I'm thinking, okay, the wet market's probably where, it could have started. Who knows, right? It's somehow started there. I thought that's what you were talking about. But then all of a sudden, I realized where the conversation was going and the dangers of this kind of crazy conspiracy that there's like 3 guys ruling the world who have 10 guys underneath them, and they're all trying to like manipulate. And that is the insanity stuff that I'm like, whoa, if there's people ruling the world, you don't know that. number one. If there's some secret society ruling planet Earth, you won't know that. But nonetheless, these ideas can be extremely damaging. And the idea that they recode, look, if you buy into what they're saying, are they saying they're recoding it for negative? Or are they saying, look, they can cure cancer now, we won't get cancer? Okay, well, I don't understand what they're trying to say. It's weird. A lot of people are saying don't take the COVID vaccine. Yeah. What is the take on this? Are they saying don't take it because of X, Y, and Z? Well, I don't even know what the position is. So
yeah, I did want to get to that too. I want to know, like, where is this? Is it because of this biodecoding community that she's getting this belief from? Like, is that where it's coming from? Or
yes, it is coming from this community or group or whatever. And the problem that I see is that it's driving her away from medicine, from actual medical science. So she's refusing. Well, right now she doesn't want to get vaccinated, even though she's a person of risk. She has she's okay. She's young, but she has this condition, this respiratory condition that I'm not very familiar with. And I'm not a doctor, but if she has some respiratory condition, it could be bad if she catches COVID. And now she doesn't want to get vaccinated. She says that your body, well, what they preach in this group is that your body is intelligent enough, you should reject medicine or stuff like this. And it's scaring me that it's driving her away from medical science. And I don't know how to address this.
Tony, I am looking at this website here. To carry out a therapy such as biodecoding, the person on his own or with the help of a therapist can resort to some neurolinguistic programming and some hypnosis. So we are getting into some woo stuff here. Yeah, that sounds like a problem, Tony. I would be worried as well if that was one of my friends and they were getting into this. This does not sound good. How do we have this conversation, Derek? What do you think?
And that's a hard one to pop, if you will, that bubble, because it sounds like she's completely convinced the way that you've conveyed it, Tony. And I would start off gently wanting to listen to what she has to say, because everyone wants to be heard.
That's true.
So this is more of a psychological approach. It's you definitely want to get science on your side. Know it for yourself, but don't come out swinging. What you want to do is go, tell me what it is and why, and then we'll take our time through it. And then you know what might happen? It depends on how close, because I'm reading into your situation and your relationship. This also matters. Like my wife, I could tell her something, right? She'll take me with a grain of salt sometimes because I'm her spouse. But get someone that she might respect, that she can listen to, and they agree with you and they realize, okay, there's some serious issues with this thing. Then somehow they can have that conversation with her. That would be the way I would approach it, because you can combat these things with evidence all day long. And if they're not really in it, there's an emotional reason they're behind it. And they think that there's, no matter what you say, oh, no, you're saying that because that's what they told you. They told me that you were going to say that. And they believe those people. They're convinced in this cult. It's like a cult mentality. So that's how I would approach the conversation personally.
I don't know if I already burst the bubble in the wrong way, because I mean, I did listen to everything she had to say about this. And she tells me that, she talks about this with anybody that she comes in contact with. Like she's trying to convince others that this is the new miracle. I don't know if this kind of indoctrination. And I did listen, but I already told her that this is pseudoscience. So I don't know if I was too.
What'd she say to you? What did she say when you said that? Did she react in a negative way? How did she react?
Well, she stopped talking to me, basically. So that's probably bad, and that's the situation I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. If you go up to somebody and you're just like, "Hey, this is bullshit," and here's why. Like 9 times out of 10, that just really doesn't work with people. It just doesn't. People just get too defensive right away, especially if it's a belief that she's already invested time and possibly money probably money if she's getting a therapist for this stuff. So are you really, if you had the chance to start over, I would have probably said, hey, I've been looking into this biodecoding thing, and I've done a little bit of research and I've heard some other opinions about it. Would you want to talk to me about these other opinions I found? Or, if you're already at the point now where you're saying, hey, this is a pseudoscience, she already knows where you're at and where you're going to be coming from. And so your intentions are going to be judged from here on out. So I'm wondering if you can have somebody else try to talk with her too, because, she's already going to have those defenses up when she talks to you.
I would talk to I'd see about getting a doctor.
I
don't know if you have friends that are medical professionals, but it'd be awesome to find a way to have a conversation, even if you were able to contact a doctor for 10 minutes and just say, look, I know you're busy. This is what they're saying. Make sure you know in a nutshell what they're saying. Do you think it'd be possible to record a statement or an audio, whatever, or even have a conversation with somebody who's a dear friend of me? That's hard to find a doctor who's going to waste their time wanting to do that. That's the hard part. He's kind of in a bad situation with that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't know much about this biodecoding thing until she told me about it. But so I thought, okay, well, maybe Dan knows more about it because he gets all kinds of crazy plays in show. So maybe he knows this. So,
Tony, I'm sorry I'm failing you today. I'm supposed to be that guy. I'm the ACA's guy that's supposed to know all the weird BS that's out there, but this is one that you caught me off guard here. It's off my radar. I am looking at more of this stuff, and it's looking really crazy. Apparently, your emotions can affect cell growth, and I think this is the idea that the therapy is supposed to help people's emotional states, so it affects their cell growth. I'm assuming they're talking about cell growth in particular because of relation to cancer and things like that. There's probably a lot of people with those kind of illnesses that are going to this. This is has a lot of signs of, there's a lot of pseudoscientific practices and therapies. I don't know about this one in particular, but there's a lot that focus on the changes in cells and the changes in how your body is metabolizing things like that. They can do that because we can't obviously see all that stuff happen with the naked eye. But they may have some kinds of machines that try to affect you on a cellular level. At least they claim. That's why there's a lot of practices that have machines that affect that do like a red light therapies and stuff like that on you.
But you just turn green when you do
I did. I cover the lights here in the
no,
I
want to
the
say
spooky
something.
House here.
Dan, you said something good here. I've recently been interviewing ex-Scientologists, and you're right in the vein. They hold the little device, and they're getting rid of the what do they call them? They're like little spirit attachments, if you will, huh?
Demons, genies.
They're not called demons, but they're like that. They have their own thing, and if they're thetans, yes. And it's like, okay, they're trying to remove the bad thetans, and there's millions of them attached to each one of us. We all need to go and hold these little L. Ron Hubbard sticks, and sure enough, they'll find the thetans and launch them out, and you'll start to, it's all pseudo and it's all BS.
Yep. I'm looking at this guy's credentials. The guy who's the creator of this, his name is Christian Fleche. I'm just reading what I see here. It does say he's an RN. He is a psychobiotherapist, whatever that means. He is also a master NLP trainer and Ericksonian hypnotherapist. So that's cool. He created the concept of biodecoding with a little restricted mark there in 1993. An innovative and global approach to physical and emotional healing, which grew rapidly in popularity in France and worldwide. So that's really interesting. So an RN is not a doctor. An RN is not a doctor. That's a registered nurse. So flag number one, if you're going to introduce an entire new therapy to people, I want you to have those MD credentials. I think that's like, I'm not an expert in how people come up with therapies, but I think that's like the minimum there.
Even then, you should look at peer review. I mean, there's no peer review on this.
Opinion, in your opinion, this is definitely definitely not truthful, right? Like giving results.
Oh, 100% no. Yeah, I don't think it's true at all. Yeah, if he tried to come up to me and talk to me in person right now, I would probably tell to his face, yeah, this is not real. I'd be very confident in that.
Because if I'm wrong, I mean, that's okay. I'll admit, okay, I was wrong. This is a valid therapy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know much about this except that it doesn't sound very convincing.
People come up with like it's not unusual to see different methodologies of therapies come up. Okay, like obviously there are new therapies that have happened. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a therapy that was invented by people in a group of people. In past couple of years, there's other kinds of therapies as well that come up. And just because it's like a brand new technique in helping people does not mean you should automatically rule out that it has any benefits to it. But what we're talking about here is something that's related to affecting the cells through hypnosis, is what I'm seeing so far. And that's just not scientific in any meaningful sense of that word. I guess your emotional states can affect your stress levels, and therefore your stress levels affect the way your body handles processes, maybe at best. But I don't think whatever this guy is selling is what's legit to people. So unfortunately, Tony, I know I could probably convince you of that. Your job is to try to convince your friend of that. And that's the challenge that, I guess the best next thing I could say, Tony, is have him call into this show, and maybe we could talk about it here. But, this does sound kind of dangerous. This is me first glance looking at this stuff, but doesn't seem very real to me. Don't think it's real.
Yeah, the biggest red flag for me is this: stay away from meds, stay away from the COVID vaccine kind of attitude. Like,
right? Yes, you see this. Yeah, that's a pretty common theme in a lot of holistic therapies and holistic medicine communities and
don't
stuff.
Don't buy that. Buy what we're selling you.
Right.
I mean, it's yeah.
Right. And if these people are saying, if these people are saying your immune system is going to be fine because of this therapy, then yeah, absolute total BS. There is no therapy in the world that can do that for you right now. So anyway, Tony, I think that's all the time I got for this call. We got to get to this other caller here. I really hope you have. Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't an immediate expert on you. I'm glad we got to look at it a little bit, but thank you for calling into the show and thank you for telling us your story. I want to know what happens with it next. I want to see what further conversations happen. So if you can call or email the show, I'd be curious to see. But I want to try to squeeze in one more call here before we get to the end of the show. So let's do it. I want to talk to Oliver calling in from England. Oliver, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hi, guys. Nice to speak to you both this evening. I'm not familiar with your work, Derek, but massively familiar with your stuff, Dan, and absolutely love the show. I've loved seeing your kind of growth over the last few years.
Yes, it's been fun. I've been getting some more people watching the show from Talk Heathen and other stuff, so I'm glad more people are enjoying my content.
Yeah.
So what's up, Oliver?
So I rang in to discuss a DMT experience I had, and I just thought I'd ask firstly, have either of you guys had any experience with DMT or know anything about it?
I know some stuff. I've never done DMT, but I've done other psychedelics. But
I was debating whether to say it, but I think I've already talked about it, actually. So yes, I have.
Okay, yeah, right. So, I mean, in general, there's, a number of I had probably a number of preconceived ideas going into actually smoking it, and I hadn't done any psychedelics in years. So I had this trip, and I'll just tell you about the trip. So took a blast from the pipe, managed to get a couple of drags out, and then I was fucking zooming off into some sort of like kaleidoscope hyperspace, and within, I couldn't give you a time frame, but not long after arriving wherever I was, I engaged with a being, let's say. I engaged with something that wasn't me.
Cool.
Okay, if that makes sense.
Far out.
Let me just, and I had a visual. I can tell you what it looked like. it was, if you took like number cubes that you get in primary school, it was like number cubes, insect-like, maybe like an ant, but also like masked with the predator cloak. So, it was like set against the background.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So that was it. So based on that, having this experience where I was talking to this, it wasn't me. I was like talking to it, and it was communicating back to me.
Yeah.
I just before I give you my opinion on it, I just want to ask your thoughts on that, based on whatever else you might know about psychedelic trips and stuff.
I mean, one of the most commonly reported things with DMT is people think they're talking to deities, or they're talking to gods, or sometimes aliens. So that doesn't surprise me in the slightest that you had that experience.
If I may, Dan, this is something I've had experience with in the past too, and I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
After all these experiences, I'm still one who doesn't believe in a god. Dreams are very much like, not on the intensity or the level that DMT, dimethyltryptamine, will take you to a whole nother dimension in instant, but are you talking to people in your dreams, and are they talking back to you? Yeah. Does that make that dream actually literally true and real? Well, people want to get into that's reality and this isn't really reality kind of stuff. You start losing all sense of knowing what's real and what isn't real based on these things. But this is reality from my experience at this point. I don't see any reason to rule that out. But I say that to say the dreams that you're going into, I would equate that to looking at this dimethyltryptamine drug, whether it be ayahuasca, psilocybin, you name it, different trips, different experiences and things. I wouldn't look at a dream and say that's proof of God, but hey, you can go to ancient literature that will, not just the biblical literature. All of them want to assume those things, but they also thought that God was the one who, set off the volcano, and he's the one who caused the earthquakes and blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, in case the conversation is going in that route, my friend, is that I look for natural explanations that make the most sense out of these experiences. And I wouldn't look at my dream and say that would be an experience for those things. But I don't know. I'm interpreting and just assuming, if someone were to approach saying, hey, my DMT trip is proof of God, or proof that this is real because it seemed real. I've had dreams like that. I've had trips like that. And it doesn't make it any more real than a dream or anything else.
Yep. 100% agree.
Yeah. Right. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm in the same camp. So the actual engagement with the being kind of went like this. The being appeared, it was there in front of me, and I was like, I can't remember, I didn't say any words, but I was like, you're just a figment of my imagination. And at that point, it was like, it became almost overwhelming, and there was this red glow going, no, I'm not. I'm a separate entity, and I'm here. And I was like, no. My brain's got the ability to put you here. I know it's got the ability to put you here. And, I came out of it with that, like, it felt like a conversation. There was no words said, but there was like a, let's say, tension. There was a wrestling match going on where I was telling it, you're part of my brain. Your neurons firing in a particular pattern. Absolutely. I'm in that camp, but I just found it interesting because afterwards I tried to think. I knew, like as Dan said, about the like kind of ubiquitous that you hear people talk about, like beings, like godly beings, or even goddesses and things. But afterwards, I researched into did people see insects at all, and it was something. So it's something I could have heard prior to going into the experience, and then boom, I've got a 4-year-old kid who watches and plays with number blocks. I like Predator. There you go.
Yeah. That's it, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about people that tends to, like, there's a tendency towards these kinds of experiences. And that's an interesting question to ask. But I don't even think the answer to that question is a religious one. It probably has something to do with the way that we recognize other people and store those memories in our brains and retrace them during, these kinds of experiences. So, yeah, I my experience, I thought I was being probed by aliens, and that was weird. But like at the end of the day, I'm in the same camp. It just was like kind of a weird thing that happened. And I know why it happened. It's because I used a drug. That's why it happened. Like, I don't know why people make such big hullabaloos out of it sometimes. But yeah,
that's why
it,
I went
man.
to dreams, Dan. I went to dreams to try and show that these experiences don't require the inducing of drugs to do it. It can happen naturally. There are people who hallucinate, or through traumatic experiences, there's releasing of chemicals in the brain that are causing us to experience these things. So I don't see any reason to jump to that conclusion. So we're all in the same camp, but
I think so.
Interesting trip.
So. Yeah, interesting trip, Oliver. I'm glad you fought back. Dude, you did it for us, Oliver. That's great.
I was just. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to add in terms of like everyday experiences. I mean, I work with children and young adults with autism, and if you hear some of the sensory divergent like experiences that they can have, like some of the things are just like remarkable, and it's like hard to. Well, it's certainly hard to fully empathize with their experience because it's so quote unquote alien, for want of a better term.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Before I go, I know you're a fan of rap, Dan, and I wrote some truth wanted bars last night. If you don't mind me spitting them.
Do I mind you spitting them? I would mind if you didn't spit them. Are you kidding me? Hit me. Go for it.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, they're after the truth when they're sat in the booth. Whether magical, galactic, they want actual proof, not some fabric aloof, weave together fairy tale. Bigfoot, Yeti, scary frame, hairy nails. Where's the grail? Did you bring it home? With a crystal skull and a whip like Indy Jones, king of Rome, in a past life. Pick up the phone and get on the damn line. A damn fine host on a quest with his fam. The best on the land. He's objectively Dan. Blessed is the man. So ring about a cover-up. Whether it's a guest or addressed by brother Puck, these folk discuss stuff about the world. Is the earth flat or does it have a curve? I know that sounds absurd, but they gotta cover it. I saw the earth was round when I was summoned to the mothership after some substances found in the woods. If you have an experience you have to discuss, reach out, speak now, dude, honest, share your proof with the dudes at Truth Wanted.
Oh fucking shit.
Well done.
God damn. Greg, production crew, did y'all hear that? All right, we're about let's get our budget together because we got a song to buy copyright to right now. I think it belongs to us now because you said it on the show. So I'm just kidding. No, Oliver, holy shit. That was amazing.
Man.
That was fucking amazing. Can you please can you email me the lyrics to that later? I'd love to see that. That is amazing.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm going to bed like straight away, but I'll email you in the morning, mate.
Please. Oh my God, thank you so much, Oliver. That made my night. Thank you so much for that. Holy shit, holy fucking shit. I'm dying. I cannot. Wow, that is we can't end it better than that.
No.
That's like the best way we could have possibly ended this show. I am so floored right now, Derek. This is awesome.
That was he put some thought into that.
That was some real shit, dude.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I can't. There were some bars there too. That wasn't just like I'm just gonna spit a couple okay.
I could see a video to that too, by the way. Not only a beat in the back with that, but also a video kind of showing up. He tripped, boom, he sees the space, he sees the curve of the earth and Yetis and all that. I could see a video.
Oliver, you just became a very special caller. Thank you for doing that. That was amazing. That made my night. Oh my goodness. Okay, we got to wrap things up now. We're at the end of the show, but first I want to give a really special thanks to Derek Lambert for being on the show tonight. Thank you, Derek, for being on the show. And where can people find you at?
I'm all over social media. I've got the recovery channel too, but MythVision Podcast is my YouTube channel. You guys can go subscribe if you'd like. You can help participate in what I do. If you're interested, I talk about mostly biblical and then other mythologies. I like to kind of dispel the magic trick, there's so much cool details there, but yeah, you can find me there.
Yes, go check out his channel. It's really cool. He's got some really cool interviews on there with some people who I'd like to get on this program, by the way. So we'll see if that happens. But anyway, folks, this has been another fantastic freaking episode of Truth Wanted. I've been your host, Objectively Dan. You can follow me on Twitter at ObjectivelyDan. But there's a couple different ways you can support this program. You can do it one through the Patreon. That's patreon.com/truthwanted. You get a special shout out if you do that. And thank you to everybody who donates on patreon.com for making this show happen. I am a volunteer of the Atheist Community of Austin, the nonprofit that helps make this show happen. And all that money goes towards getting equipment and making this show happen every single week. So thank you guys who donate on there. Another way you can support the show is by getting some merch. We got a store with some merchandise in it. It's really, really cool. You should definitely check it out. We got the hoodies, the shirts, maybe a rap album in the future, or at least a single, because that was fucking awesome. And then what else we got? We got the YouTube memberships. Those are another cool way you can support the show. So you can become a member, get cool little emoticons for that. So thank you, everybody who donates in all the different ways that you do. Another way you can connect with us is through our Facebook fan group. We got a fan group you should check out for fans of Truth Wanted, where we put all of our posts on there and people can talk about the show. And we also are going to be on the fan Discord right after this program. So don't go away just yet. Derek and I are going to jump on there and answer your questions right after the show here. Those are for exclusive to people who are watching this live. You guys need to go check that out. So last thing here is the email address. You can email the show. It's truth@atheist-community.org. Oliver, that's the email. Please email me that. Thank you very much. And anybody else who's free to do that. But that's actually not last, because last but never not least is a thank you, a shout out, if you will, to the wonderful, fantastic, spectacular, amazing crew that helps make this show happen every single week. There's the crew cam right now. Look at all these people. Busting rhymes back there. Jason and Martin just doing their thing. We're all having a good time. I'm having a good time. It's a great time. So thank you to everybody who helps make this show every single week. Derek, you have any last words of wisdom before we wrap up tonight's program?
Honestly, stay skeptical. Always challenge what you think you know is true, and you might be wanted for truth if you do.
Ooh, yes. Might be wanted for truth if you do. Thank you to everybody watching the show tonight. Remember to always keep wanting the truth, and I'll see you next time.